Welcome back once again to the You Should Get a License podcast edition, your number one source for information, education, inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in business. Today, that's a career in the financial services, in the insurance industry. Today is going to be just a powerful day, because, there are certain people, one of the joys that I get in being able to, host on this platform is I get to speak to people that I admire and have great appreciation and respect for in this industry. And the individual that we're going to be talking to is not only someone who is very knowledgeable and very successful, but someone who is very influential in driving forward the future of where this industry is really going. When you talk about someone, who has come up, come up from the ground floor, being a child and kind of raised in the business to taking over the business, not being given, but taking it over, buying it himself, and who has expanded the company coast to coast, around the world, international. This is an international brother who we have coming on here. And and if you're fortunate enough to meet him in person and you visit his amazing office with his amazing staff and crew out in Las Vegas, he is a owner because they own the building. Okay, they own the building. So this is another level of just industry prowess and excellence overall, as I like to call it. But I want to welcome to the You Should Get a License platform, Mr. Quincy Branch of Branch Benefits. Quincy, welcome.
Man, welcome. Thank you, sir. And for a second there, I was trying to figure out who you were talking to or talking about, because I was trying to that can't be me with all those nice words. But no, man, I appreciate it to the fullest, sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, look, I'm excited for our conversation because I know you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight. And, really, I consider you a friend, in this space. We've had the opportunity to spend some time together, personally and professionally, and have some different conversations. And I've been really looking forward, to having you on so we could talk about some of that more. Before we start digging in, I just want to get a sense and allow our audience to kind of get a sense of what you do and where your areas of specialty are. Many of the people who are listening to this platform are either new to the industry, or maybe they're thinking about getting into this business, so they're relying on it as a source of information to kind of guide their steps. So can you just tell us a little bit about Branch Benefits and what you guys specialize in this industry?
Oh, okay, cool, awesome. Well, Branch Benefits Consultants. So our headquarters is in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're a full service agency. So we do it all: personal lines, commercial, and benefits, and soon to be financial services. Q1 of next year. So we've got that on the docket. But, outside of that, I think you talk about specialties or niches. I know everybody says that you need to have a niche and you should have a niche. And obviously, we probably, I want to say, specialize more so in the hospitality, nonprofits, and professional services. When construction was high in Vegas, of course, we did a lot of construction stuff, but obviously that's taken a dive, but it's coming back. But for the most part, we have locations, as I said before, Vegas, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C. And across those lines, man. But really, that's really who we are. Nothing special, in my humble opinion.
No, it's very special. In fact, it's very special. I mean, here's one thing that I just want to highlight right off. You said, when you mention full service, sometimes when individuals speak to being full service, they might say full service from a property and casualty aspect, right? So we're doing personal lines, we're doing commercial lines as well with working with businesses. But you guys are full service in the standpoint that not only are you working in the property and casualty space, but you're also in the life and health space on the employee benefit side. And even, as you alluded to, expanding into more of the financial services, retirement planning, things of that nature in the future. One, just to kind of get your thoughts on that, obviously you guys are participating in that as part of your business model. Is that something that you would recommend for other agencies? And is that a difficult balance for you to have? Or is it just something that feels like a natural fit?
Man, it's a great question. And I would say, I'm gonna try to answer this one and not open up a can of worms. I would say it was a natural fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
And only because I feel like I've always been a person, that saying where it says a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah.
But then the going on that statement says, but it's good to be that way. But that's the way we were. So as an agency, long story short, we first started off as an employee benefits only agency. That's all we did, which is of course how we got branch benefits consultants. And we just sort of evolved and morphed into the property and casualty, into the personal lines space. But like I said before, that was a natural progression for us. And it's because of our business model and our way that we look at our client. Our thing is we want to make sure that we can be a true risk manager, advisor for our client completely. And so for us, a lot of things we saw that, okay, if we were looking at things on the benefit side, a lot of that fed into the commercial with like workers' comp. So we saw the tie in there. And then of course you take it a step further, and I'm a big proponent, especially on the life insurance side. So therefore, you talk to people, now you're dealing with people's personal lives, and it's like, okay, it just for me, it was a natural continuation of the conversation to say, okay, to go from benefits to commercial to personal lines, and eventually now going into financial services, that it just made sense for us.
Mm. Now adding that as a part of your mix, would you recommend taking it in steps the same way that you've done it? Or would you say, hey, look, if you want to, kind of play in all the sandboxes, go ahead and start diving into the information. What would be your guidance for someone to kind of move through those processes? Because they're different, segments. I mean,
yeah,
each one can be a little tricky.
Well, and I'll say this, Rod, great question. And I probably should clarify this. If you're a one-man shop or a one-woman shop and you're doing it, then I would say I'll be very cautious to try to dabble and do all of that, because again, that takes time, that takes energy. But I am a strong believer in what they say, a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
And I never want to be the smartest person in our organization. So I've been blessed to have a lot of talented people surrounded, by me. So therefore, when we say personal lines, I tell people all the time, I've been in this business now 22 years, and I know enough about all the different lines to be dangerous, but I'm not a specialist in any. So let me be very clear. Benefits is where I cut my teeth at. So I'll probably say that's where my niche is at, so to speak. But for me, and as an agency owner, it was important that I get people and put them in the right places. So we have very talented people in personal lines, talented people in commercial, and probably even more talented people in benefits. So I would definitely say, if you're going to go that route, man, find the talent, because I think that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, you just went to another area. So how important, you mentioned that, because it's how important is it for you to have that infrastructure development as the foundation of your business?
Man, oh my gosh. See, we're gonna go off on a whole other tangent now. But for me, we talk about that natural fit. That's my mentality. I'm a natural sort of leadership, foundational, organizational type person. And so for me in our agency, building the foundation was key. Figuring out who we want to be, where we want to be, what we want to do was truly where we had to go. Now, obviously, I have that visionary. I can think 7, 10, 20 years out. But to your point exactly, man, establishing what do you want to do, putting pen to paper and saying, okay, this is how this is going to walk out. But then I think also understanding that plan is probably going to change every 6 months.
Right.
But if how that saying goes, if you don't plan, you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
You plan to fail. Yeah.
And I think so. I think that's key, especially as an agency owner. I've only been an independent agency owner and worked in the independent agency space my whole entire career. So this is the only vantage point that I have. And so I think a lot of times, to your point, we wear a lot of hats, and we have to dabble in different things. But when you don't have that plan in place, man, it's like a rabbit hole. Okay, I'm down here, and before you know it, I forgot about this. But when you have that plan and that roadmap, it just keeps you, in line.
Yeah. Based on, what you guys have done there, and when you go out and you look at your presence, you look at, how, your involvement with the different trade associations, different organizations, it's kind of, you kind of miss that you guys are actually an independent agency. I want to bring, I just want to bring that back for a minute and just maybe kind of explain some of the differences between being an independent agency versus a captive organization, or maybe a franchised style of organization.
So, and really, I guess to just put it at a real ground rules, third grade type of level, because that's where I think at most of the time. On the independent side, we have that flexibility, we have that freedom to work with any and all carriers that are in our designated markets. So, we like to express it and say it as, we have the freedom and flexibility to go out there and get you the best price, find you the best plan, but also advocate on your behalf. Compared to a captive where they're probably maybe only dealing with one or two markets, at best, maybe three if they have a long-standing contract. But then also too, what I'd like to say is about the independent market is that you're doing it, man, you're basically doing it on your own. Again, I know the captives, you own your own agency, you own your own book, but you also have that big brand behind you, and when that big brand is doing a commercial, when they do one, everybody benefits, versus an independent agency where they're the ones that, okay, if they do it, it's for their brand, it's for their name, and you have to build that awareness. So I think that's really the key, is having that the freedom of choice and having that flexibility to say, okay, you know what, I'm not beholden to one or two or three carriers, and that's fine, nothing's wrong with that. But we have the availability to go to the market and say, okay, hey, we can work with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different carriers. But at the same time, talking about being niche and experts, that also is a bigger burden of proof on us, because now we have to really know the product of all these different carriers.
Right.
And we have to know, okay, hey, if you come to me with a risk, I can go to these three versus that one, or I can go to this one versus this one. So it really, in my humble opinion, puts you more in your game, and it makes you really want to be sharp, because now just because you have more weapons to choose from doesn't necessarily make you a skilled fighter. You got to know how to use those weapons. You
got to use the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay. No. Look, I didn't mean to go that far that early. So I do want to bring it back, because I think your childhood and you growing up, not only in the business, but the other things that you were doing are very important. So I always like to ask the question, because I know you ended up in the business, but I know that's not where you thought you would be originally. So I want you to take me back, 9 years old, 10 years old, Quincy Branch. What were you dreaming of at that time? What were you thinking of being when you were a grown man, when you grew up?
Oh man, see, I need a couch to sit back and talk about that one, but no, I think, Rod, like probably a lot of people, man, I had hoop dreams.
Yeah.
I was going to be a hooper. I was going to go and go to college and make the pros, or go do something. That was my plan. And then I think, very early on, I realized that I always had a business mindset, because going back to my dad, my dad always had something entrepreneurial going on, whether it was an insurance or whether it was some other side things he was doing. He always showed me that entrepreneurial side. I'm like, okay, so I had the bug early. But, I tell people my story all the time, but probably when I was like 13 or so, one summer he was in insurance, and my dad started off, man, he was an old school debit route, so for anybody that's seasoned on this call, they'll know that, that door to door collecting premiums, go and sit down and have coffee with people, and this was back in Louisiana. So, you got the humidity, you got mosquitoes and everything else. But one day, one summer, I just hung out with him. I said, man, I'm gonna go hang out with him and just see what his job was like. And the crazy part about it is, Rob, when I got back from that day, I said, okay, if this is what insurance is, I would never do insurance. Like, never. Like, this is not what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And so everything up until, that point where I came in 1998 led up to that. Like, I went to school for business management, got my degree, knew I wanted to be in business, worked at Enterprise, did all the other things and everything, but it was never to get into insurance. So I tell people all the time, like, I didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on me.
Right. Absolutely.